What if I told you that the loudest message you could ever send is complete silence? She walked away, maybe expecting chaos. Desperate texts, apologies, a man crumbling. But what she got instead was stillness. No chase, no explanation, just the weight of her own decision echoing back at her. You see, heartbreak isn't the end, it's the mirror. And what you do in that mirror matters. You could have begged, you could have fought for closure, but you chose something far more powerful, restraint. Because silence isn't weakness, it's strategy, it's strength under control, it's the fire that doesn't need to rage to burn. Right now, you're at a crossroads. You can let her absence break you, or you can let it become the forge where your new self is built. Now, if you're ready to speak without words, to rise without reacting, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. Silence is my strength. Let's begin. Number 1. The silence isn't revenge, it's resurrection. When she walked away, you said nothing, not because you didn't have something to say, but because you knew that silence was the only language powerful enough to speak in your place. Most people mistake that quiet for weakness, for surrender. They think you froze, but you didn't. You simply chose not to scream in a room that no longer deserved your voice. There's this idea that when someone leaves you, you need to prove something, that you should post more, talk more, react more, just to show you're okay, or worse, to show them what they lost. But that's not stoic. That's noise, and real strength never needs to shout. Right now, your silence is being misunderstood, and that's exactly how it should be. Because in the confusion, in the space where they expected drama and found nothing, you're rebuilding. You're not retaliating, you're resurrecting. Every minute they think you're stagnant, you're sharpening. Every day they think you're grieving, you're grounding. This silence is not absence. It's transformation. It's the cocoon. And while they scroll through your feed hoping for signals, trying to read your pulse through stories and captions, they'll find less and less. Because you're no longer performing. Think of this like the stillness before a storm, not the kind that destroys, but the kind that reshapes the land. You're not seeking to hurt anyone. You're simply returning to the one person you forgot in all this noise, yourself. In silence, you stop asking for closure, you stop needing apology, you stop rewriting the story. Instead, you write something entirely new. And that's the real elevation, not becoming louder, but becoming unreachable to anything that once diminished you. Psychologically, this flips the script. They expected chaos, and your peace unnerves them. They anticipated desperation, and your discipline unsettles their comfort. They thought walking away made them powerful, but it's your quiet evolution that renders their absence irrelevant. This isn't about winning, it's about walking forward so completely that returning becomes impossible. So if you've been silent, stay that way, not to punish, but to purify. And if you're ready to turn the volume of your soul up while turning the world's noise down, comment below. My silence isn't empty, it's becoming. Number 2, letting go isn't bitterness, it's self-respect. You didn't walk away because you stopped caring, you walked away because you stopped begging to be seen. That's a distinction most people will never understand. They'll say you gave up too easily, that maybe you were never fully in it. But they didn't see the moments when you stayed long after your needs were unmet. They didn't hear the silence between your words, the ones you swallowed to keep the peace, the ones you buried while waiting to matter. You didn't leave out of spite. You left because you realized something fundamental. When you have to convince someone to choose you, you've already lost too much. You've traded dignity for desire. And Stoicism demands that you protect the one thing no one should be allowed to touch, your self-respect. This isn't about ego, this is about clarity. You're not trying to prove them wrong, You're just done proving yourself right to someone who already looked away. You're not slamming the door, you're just done holding it open. That's not bitterness. It's the boundary between self-worth and self-sacrifice. There's a quiet, grounded strength in the moment you stop checking your phone, in the moment you delete the conversation, not to forget them, but to remember you, in the moment you stop asking, "Did I do enough?" and start asking, "Was this ever enough for me?" Letting go isn't giving up on love. It's ending the habit of shrinking to fit someone's partial attention. It's not rejecting them, it's choosing not to reject yourself. That's what most people miss. They think moving on is cold. They don't see that it's the warmest act of loyalty to your future. You don't need revenge. You don't need validation. You need a life that reflects your standards, not your scars. Because the more you try to reclaim something that discarded you, the more you teach yourself that your worth is conditional. And nothing destroys inner peace faster than needing someone else to confirm your value. So let them go, not with rage, not with despair, but with reverence, for the lesson, for the journey, and most importantly, for yourself. And if you've reached that moment where silence feels lighter than proving your place, comment below. I didn't let go to hurt you, I let go to remember me. Number 3, your absence is louder than your apology ever was. They expected chaos. They expected a breakdown. Angry texts, impulsive calls, maybe even a public plea for closure. They thought you'd spiral, beg, or explode, but instead, you disappeared. No grand gesture, no last words, just a calm exit, as if you suddenly remembered who you were. And that silence, that stillness, it says more than any speech ever could. There's a unique power in removing your energy from where it's no longer respected. It's not a game, it's not manipulation. It's a recalibration of emotional currency. When someone takes your presence for granted, your absence becomes a mirror. And in that mirror, they don't just see what's missing, they see who they've become without you. You didn't walk away to make them regret it. You walked away because staying meant losing pieces of yourself, one compromise at a time. And now, while they scroll through their messages and don't see your name, while they wonder why the world feels quieter, something begins to shift. They don't just notice you're gone, they feel it. Your absence creates space, not just in their life but in yours, space to rebuild, recenter, and remember that you were never meant to beg to be understood. You were meant to be felt, not explained. And now, your silence is doing all the talking. This is what Stoicism teaches, not the cold detachment of someone who doesn't care, but the fierce clarity of someone who chooses not to waste a single drop of life proving their worth to those who fail to see it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." And that's what your silence does. It becomes your proof. You don't need to tell them what they lost. You don't need to correct the story. The very absence of your attention becomes the pressure they never expected to feel. Because when someone who used to chase stops moving, the echo lingers longer than the words ever did. Let them sit in that stillness. Let them wonder. You're not punishing them. You're prioritizing you. And if that silence shakes their world, it only proves how loud your presence truly was. If you're done explaining and ready to let your absence carry the weight of your truth, comment below. My silence isn't revenge, it's revelation. Number 4, power begins the moment you stop needing to be chosen. You spent so long trying to be enough for someone who never truly saw you. You twisted yourself into shapes that didn't fit. You shrank your voice, softened your edge, blurred your boundaries, all in the name of love. But what you were really seeking wasn't love. It was validation, a sign that you mattered, that who you were was worthy of staying for. And then they left. Maybe quietly, maybe suddenly, maybe they didn't even explain. And in that silence, something deeper collapsed. Not just the relationship, but the identity you built around being enough for them. That's why it hurt so much. Not because they stopped loving you, but because they stopped being the mirror you used to see yourself. But what if the loss wasn't a breaking point? What if it was the turning point? Because Stoicism doesn't offer sympathy for the man who waits to be chosen. It offers liberation. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, and when your thoughts are built around pleasing someone else, their absence will always feel like a verdict." Right now, the challenge is not in losing them, it's in reclaiming the self you handed over piece by piece. You don't need her to come back. You need to come back to yourself. That means taking your power off the auction block. That means deciding your worth isn't a vote. The moment you stop needing to be chosen, you stop performing. You stop negotiating your standards. You stop explaining your soul to people committed to misunderstanding it. And something beautiful begins. Clarity, stillness, strength. You realize that the person you've been waiting for isn't them. It's the version of you that doesn't need their permission to breathe fully again. This isn't about being cold, it's about being whole. When you shift your focus from being liked to being aligned, you attract differently, you speak differently, you walk differently. Not because you're faking strength, but because you've remembered it was yours all along. You don't need to punish them, you don't need to prove anything, you just need to live in such a way that their presence becomes irrelevant to your peace. And that is the truest form of power. If you've stopped asking to be chosen and started choosing yourself, comment below. I'm not waiting to be seen, I see myself now. Number 5. Rise above. This is what Stoic payback really looks like. You've probably imagined it. The moment she sees you again, stronger, sharper, thriving. Maybe it's after you've built something of your own. Maybe it's just you walking past, completely unfazed. She catches a glimpse, and in that second, the silence between you feels heavier than it ever did before. But this time, you don't look back. Most people think revenge means making someone regret leaving, posting more, flaunting a new partner, crafting a curated image of success just to send a message. But that's not Stoicism. That's ego in disguise. Stoic payback has nothing to do with her and everything to do with you. It's not about proving them wrong, it's about proving to yourself that you were never broken, just unfinished. Right now you may still be tempted to show her what she lost, to turn your growth into a performance. But performances end. What lasts is transformation, and real transformation doesn't need an audience. It doesn't ask, will she see this? It asks, is this who I want to become? The Stoics knew that true power doesn't scream, it evolves. It matures in silence, nourished not by external validation but by discipline, intention and clarity. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." That's Stoic payback, quiet progress, inner architecture, a life rebuilt so intentionally that those who doubted you no longer even recognize the blueprint. And that's what unnerves them most, not that you moved on, but that you outgrew the version of yourself they once knew. You didn't try to get even, you got distant. You didn't fight back, you leveled up. And now, their memory no longer fits into the space you've created for yourself. You're not chasing closure, you're not chasing attention, you're chasing purpose. And the beautiful paradox is, when you stop trying to be seen, you become impossible to ignore. Not because you shouted louder, but because your silence became magnetic, grounded, unshakable. Let them wonder. Let them feel the shift without explanation, because nothing confuses the past like watching you build a future it was never prepared for. If you've stopped seeking revenge and started rising instead, comment below. I don't return fire, I rise beyond the flame. Number 6. Closure doesn't come from them, it begins with you. You keep waiting for the message, the explanation, the apology that makes everything make sense. You think if she just told you why, if she just gave you something honest, something final, you'd be able to move on. But she won't. And even if she did, it wouldn't fix the part of you that still replays everything in silence, wondering if you were ever enough. The truth is, closure that depends on someone else isn't closure, it's permission. And Stoicism teaches us never to put our peace in someone else's hands. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Her absence is an event. Her silence is an event. But your suffering in the echo? That's your response. And that's where the work begins. Right now, you're hoping that one more conversation will unlock clarity. But clarity doesn't come from their words, it comes from your decision. You decide it's over. You decide the story doesn't need rewriting. You decide that understanding why she left isn't nearly as important as understanding why you stayed so long after the connection was gone. Closure isn't given. It's built. Quietly, relentlessly, through the discipline of moving forward without answers. Through the strength of sitting with the ache and still choosing not to go back. Through the commitment to stop rereading the same chapter, hoping the ending will change. When you stop waiting for her to explain, you stop giving her power over your narrative, and something shifts. You no longer need the truth from her because you've chosen a deeper truth. She left, and you're still here. Still breathing, still capable, still building. Let that be enough. Not because it should be, but because it must be. You don't need her to hand you closure wrapped in words. You give it to yourself through action, through silence, through the refusal to keep opening a door that only ever led to confusion. And when you close it, really close it, not with resentment, but with reverence for the lesson, you finally walk freely, not because the pain is gone, but because you're done letting it define your direction. If you've stopped waiting for their words and started writing your own piece, comment below. Closure isn't something I receive, it's something I choose. Number 7. Disappear to evolve. Let the silence transform you. They think you're gone, that you gave up, that you vanished into bitterness or defeat. What they don't see, what they'll never see unless they've lived it, is what silence really means. Because while the world reads your distance as withdrawal, what's actually happening is a kind of becoming. This is what the caterpillar knows when it spins itself into darkness. The world thinks it's paused, maybe even dead, but inside, everything is shifting, everything is building, and one day, when the cocoon cracks open, it isn't drama that returns. It's flight. Right now, your silence isn't a sign of surrender. It's the sacred space of transformation. No updates, no explanations, no dramatic posts, because real change doesn't need witnesses. It needs time. And in that time, you're reassembling, not to be seen, not to be missed, but to be whole. Stoicism doesn't encourage you to run from pain. It teaches you to sit with it until it no longer controls you. Marcus Aurelius didn't rise through revenge, he rose through restraint. And this is your version of that. You don't need to show anyone you're becoming better. You simply become better. Quietly. Think about what's happening now. While they scroll, you train. While they wonder, you work. While they talk, you grow in silence, far from the noise that once fed your insecurities. You're not isolating, you're incubating. This silence is your revolution. And when you finally re-emerge, not with noise but with presence, everything about you will feel unfamiliar to those who expected the old version. That's not arrogance. That's ascension. That's what happens when you choose to rise in private instead of seeking validation from the same world that once overlooked you. Let them misread your distance. Let them fill the void with their own assumptions. You have nothing to prove, no show to put on, because what you're building now, within, will echo long after their interest fades. And when you return, if you return, it won't be to reclaim anything. It'll be to live at a frequency they no longer recognize. If you're letting the silence sculpt your strength, comment below. I didn't disappear. I evolved where no one was watching. Number 8. Letting go is not failure. It's the highest form of love. You didn't walk away because you stopped caring. You walked away because you started caring enough to stop clinging to someone who had already let go. In a world that tells you to fight for what you love, to prove your worth by how much you hold on, you did something rare. You released, not out of anger, not out of spite, but out of the quiet understanding that real love, the kind rooted in dignity, doesn't beg to be kept. It's easy to confuse letting go with giving up, to think that if you had held tighter, shown more, pleaded longer, maybe things would have turned out differently. But that's just the mind bargaining with a reality it hasn't accepted. Because the truth is, love that needs to be constantly fought for becomes something else entirely, something heavy, desperate, and one-sided. Stoicism teaches that freedom is not found in getting everything we want, but in mastering our response to what we lose. Seneca once said, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere," and that includes living half in the past, half in the hope of a reconciliation. Letting go is the return to presence, to yourself, to the space you need to breathe again. Right now you may still feel the ache. That doesn't mean you made the wrong choice. It means you made the courageous one. You stopped tying your sense of worth to whether or not someone stayed. You stopped thinking love meant proving yourself over and over to someone already looking the other way. Letting go is not a lack of love. It's the refusal to love someone else more than you love your own peace. It's understanding that some stories are meant to end before they ruin the character you were becoming. And that is not failure. That is maturity. That is strength. That is wisdom born not from victory, but from clarity. You've decided to honor the truth rather than protect the illusion. That's not giving up. It's stepping out of a story that no longer aligns with who you are. So if you've chosen to release, not because you stopped loving, but because you started loving yourself enough to stop hurting, then your silence isn't empty. It's full of respect for the love that was and the future that still can be. If you've chosen peace over possession, comment below. I let go, not because I lost, but because I've grown. Number 9. Your silence resets the emotional balance. She had grown used to your reaction. The instant replies, the questions that chased every quiet moment, the way your emotional rhythm adjusted to her shifts. Faster when she pulled away, slower when she leaned in. Without saying it, she controlled the tempo. You just followed. But then something changed. You stopped reacting. You didn't call. You didn't ask. You didn't accept. And in that silence, something deeper than words happened. The emotional field reset. For the first time, she wasn't sure where she stood. The same silence she once used to gain leverage now echoes back at her. Not because you're playing games, but because you've finally stepped out of them. This is what Stoicism teaches. True power isn't about control over others. It's mastery over yourself. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." You've realized that not every impulse deserves action, that your emotions can rise and fall without anyone else steering them. And that realization unsettles her, not because she lost you, but because she lost access to the part of you she used to shape. You are no longer a reflection of her attention. You've become the source of your own steadiness. Silence does what words never could. It confuses patterns. It breaks cycles. It removes the feedback loop that once gave her confidence in your vulnerability, and that lack of feedback, that unreadable calm, it makes her think in a way your pleading never did. You're not ghosting. You're grounding. You're not punishing. You're protecting. You've chosen peace over performance, and in doing so, you've become unpredictable in the most powerful way possible. She doesn't know what you're thinking because she no longer has access to what used to be automatic. That's not cruelty, it's closure. The kind that doesn't require slamming doors or burning bridges, just a quiet withdrawal of energy, of attention, of emotional real estate. And the moment she feels that space, she'll either grow or disappear. Either way, you win. Because the most dangerous man is the one who no longer reacts, but redirects. If your silence isn't escape, but equilibrium, comment below. I don't react, I reset. Number 10. You didn't lose her, you found yourself again. At first, it felt like loss, like something was torn away, violently, suddenly, unfairly. You stared into the silence she left behind, looking for answers, for signs, for something to ease the weight pressing on your chest. But with each passing day, something unexpected began to happen. That silence, once so unbearable, started to open. Not into grief, but into space. Space to breathe, space to think, space to remember who you were before you bent yourself out of shape to hold on to someone who was already letting go. She left, yes. But what really ended wasn't just the relationship. It was the version of you that needed someone else to feel whole. And that ending? That was the beginning, the start of a return, a coming home to the part of yourself that got lost in compromise, in pleasing, in trying too hard to hold on to something that was always drifting. Stoicism doesn't promise comfort, it promises clarity, and in that clarity you've discovered something stronger than validation, you've discovered self-command. Epictetus wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And in her absence, you stopped being defined by what she did or didn't give. You began the slow, steady work of becoming unshakable, not because you're immune to pain, but because you no longer depend on anyone else to soothe it. You didn't lose her. You lost the illusion that she was the answer to your peace, and that is the most powerful truth of all. Now your days are built differently, not around her attention, but around your intention. You rise not to impress, but to progress. You move not to escape, but to expand. You live not to be remembered, but to become undeniable. And one day, maybe today, maybe months from now, someone will see you, the strength, the presence, the purpose. They'll wonder how you got here, and the answer will be simple. I stopped chasing her and started chasing who I could become. Because when she left, she didn't take your worth with her. She left it behind, waiting for you to reclaim it. If you've turned the silence into self-discovery and the ending into a new beginning, comment below. She left, but I'm the one who found something greater. You began with heartbreak, with silence that felt unbearable, but now you see, it was never emptiness, it was discipline. She didn't break you, she revealed you. And in that silence, you found not loss, but clarity. If you're ready to keep building that quiet power, like this video, subscribe and comment. I am unstoppable. Stay grounded, stay silent, and let your evolution make all the noise.